Hare Krishna. We'll continue reading from the biography of Srila Prabhupada, the founder of the Hare Krishna movement. Of course, Vrindavan also means the state of pure Krishna consciousness. As Advaita Acharya had said of Lord Chaitanya, wherever you are is Vrindavan. And this was also true of Srila Prabhupada. Had Srila Prabhupada passed away in London, New York, or Moscow, therefore, his destination would have been the same. As Lord Krishna states in the Bhagavad Gita, one who is always thinking of me, surely he attains to me. But because Vrindavan Dham is the quintessential realm of Krishna consciousness within the universe, the ideal place for departure from this world, so it was yet another exemplary feature of Srila Prabhupada's life that he went back to Godhead with Vrindavan as his last junction. Those Vaishnavas who had taken the vow never to leave Vrindavan could see that Srila Prabhupada, after sacrificing everything, including the benefit of residing in Vrindavan to deliver fallen souls in the most God-forsaken locations of the world, had returned to the holy land of Vrindavan, and from there had departed for the original abode of Lord Krishna in the spiritual sky. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, anyone who executes service in Vrindavan certainly goes back to home, back to Godhead, after giving up his body. Srila Prabhupada's departure was also perfect because he was chanting and hearing the holy names of God. Thus the Supreme Personality of Godhead was present at Srila Prabhupada's passing, just as he was at the celebrated passing away of Bhishma Dev, who said, "Despite his being equally kind to everyone, he has graciously come before me while I am ending my life, for I am his unflinching servitor." As Lord Krishna came before Bhishma Dev, assuring him and everyone else that Bhishma was returning back to Godhead on leaving his body, so the Lord in his incarnation of Nama Avatar, the Hare Krishna mantra, was present for Srila Prabhupada's departure. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki. This chapter is entitled The Last Instruction, because ultimately Prabhupada demonstrated how it is that we should leave our body. This is the perfection of life. We're going to face it. Everybody's going to leave their body at some stage. And therefore they say life is a preparation and death is the examination. At death, everything, your whole consciousness through your entire life comes to a culmination. And so, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We'll continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 2, entitled Hiranyakashipu, the King of the Demons. And we're reading text 10. Tavadyata bhuvam yuyang. Tavadyata bhuvam yuyam. Brahmakshatra sameditam. Brahmakshatra sameditam. Sudayadvam tapoyagya. Sudayadvam tapoyagya. Svajjaya vratadanina. Svajjaya vratadanina. Tavayata bhuvam yuyam. Brahmakshatra sameditam. Sudayadvam tapoyagya. Svajjaya vratadanina. Tavadyata bhuvam duyam. Brahmakshatra sameditam Sudayadvam tapuyagya Sajjaya vratadanina. Tavat, as long as I am engaged in the matter of killing Vishnu. Yata, go. Bhuvam, to the planet Earth. Yuyam, all of you. Brahma Kshatra, of the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas. Sameditam, made prosperous by the activities, Brahminical culture and Vedic government. Shudaya Dvam, just destroy. Tapaha, the performers of austerity. Yagya, sacrifices. Svajaya, study of Vedic knowledge. Vrata, the regulative vows. Daninaha, and those who give giving charity. In translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. While I am engaged in the business of killing Lord Vishnu, go down to the planet Earth, which is flourishing due to Brahminical culture and a Kshatriya government. These people engage in austerities, sacrifice, Vedic study, regular vows, and charity. Destroy all the people thus engaged. Please repeat. While I am engaged in the business of killing Lord Vishnu, go down to the planet Earth, which is flourishing due to Brahminical culture and a Kshatriya government. These people engage in austerity, sacrifice, Vedic study, regular vows, and charity. Destroy all the people thus engaged. Purport. Hiranyakashipu's main purpose was to disturb the demigods. He planned first to kill Lord Vishnu, so that with Lord Vishnu's death, the demigods would automatically weaken and die. Another of his plans was to disturb the residents of the planet Earth. The peace and prosperity of the residents of Earth and all the other planets were maintained by the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas. Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 4.13, Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam guna karma vibhagasha. According to the three modes of material nature and the work ascribed to them, 4 divisions of human society were created by me. On all the planets, there are different types of residents, but the Lord recommends, referring especially to the planet Earth, which is inhabited by human beings, that society be divided into 4 varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. Before the advent of Lord Krishna on this earth, it is understood that the earth was managed by the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas. The duty of the Brahmanas is to cultivate Shama, peacefulness, Dhamma, self-control, Titiksha, tolerance, Satyam, truthfulness, Shaucham, cleanliness, and Arjavam, simplicity, and then to advise the Kshatriya kings how to rule the country or planet. Following the instructions of the Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas should engage the populace in austerity, sacrifices, Vedic study, and adherence to the rules and regulations established by Vedic principles. They should also arrange for charity to be given to the Brahmanas, sannyasis, and temples. This is the godly arrangement of Brahminical culture. People are inclined to offer yagya because unless sacrifices are offered, there will be insufficient rain. Yagya bhavati parjanya, which will hamper agricultural activities. Parjanyad anasambhava. By introducing Brahminical culture, therefore, a Kshatriya government should engage people in performing yagya, studying the Vedas, and giving charity. Thus, the people will receive their necessities for life very easily, and there will be no disturbances in society. In this regard, Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 3.12, Ishtan bhogan hivo deva tashyante yagya bhavita terdatan apradayayibhyo yo bhunkte stena evasa. In charge of the various necessities of life, the demigods, being satisfied by the performance of yagya, sacrifice, supply all necessities to man. But he who enjoys these gifts without offering them to the demigods in return is certainly a thief. The demigods are authorized supplying agents who act on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu. Therefore, they must be satisfied by the performance of prescribed yagyas. In the Vedas, there are different kinds of yagas prescribed for different kinds of demigods, but all are ultimately offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For one who cannot understand what this Personality of Godhead is, sacrifice to the demigods is recommended. According to the different material qualities of the persons concerned, different types of yagas are recommended in the Vedas. Worship of different demigods is also on the same basis, namely according to different qualities. For example, the meat-eaters are recommended to worship the goddess Kali, the ghastly form of material nature. And before the goddess, the sacrifice of animals is recommended. But for those in the mode of goodness, the transcendental worship of Vishnu is recommended. Ultimately, all yagas are meant for the gradual promotion to the transcendental position. Ordinary men, at least 5 yagas, known as Panca Mahayagya, are necessary. One should know, however, that all the necessities of life the human society requires are supplied by the demigod agents of the Lord. No one can manufacture anything. Consider, for example, all the eatables of human society. These eatables include grains, fruits, vegetables, milk, and sugar for persons in the mode of goodness, and also eatables for the non-vegetarians, such as meats, none of which can be manufactured by men. And again, take for example heat, light, water, and air, which are also necessities of life. None of them can be manufactured by human society. Without the Supreme Lord, there can be no profuse sunlight, moonlight, rainfall, or breeze, without which no one can live. Obviously, our life is dependent on supplies from the Lord. Even for our manufacturing enterprises, we require so many raw materials like metal, sulfur, mercury, manganese, and so many essentials, all of which are supplied by the agents of the Lord, with the purpose that we should make proper use of them to keep ourselves fit and healthy for the purpose of self-realization, leading to the ultimate goal of life, namely liberation from material struggle for existence. This aim of life is attained by performance of yagyas. If we forget the purpose of human life and simply take supplies from the agents of the Lord for sense gratification and become more and more entangled in material existence, which is not the purpose of creation, Certainly we become thieves, and therefore we are punished by the laws of material nature. A society of thieves can never be happy, for they have no aim in life. The gross materialist thieves have no ultimate goal of life, they are simply directed to sense gratification. Nor do they have knowledge of how to perform yagyas. Lord Chaitanya, however, inaugurated the easiest performance of yagya, namely the Sankirtan yagya, which can be performed by anyone in the world who accepts the principles of Krishna consciousness. Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyakashipu planned to kill the inhabitants of earth so that yagya would stop and the demigods being disturbed would die automatically when Lord Vishnu, the Yagyeshwara, was killed. These were the demoniac plans of Hiranyakashipu, who was expert in such activities. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmaditam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutare Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadanti Swaparantikam Vandeyam Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamshcha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijina Saita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shiva Shakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dino Bando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Anchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vinevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I'm kindly seeking the blessings of all the assembled devotees. Unless you're very merciful to me, then I have no hope. But hopefully together we will get deeper into this text. It's a very interesting pastime we've got going on right here. Because ultimately, Hiranyakashipu, he's the king of the demons. And we have to notice that we have some mentality of Hiranyakashipu inside of us. But it takes some humility to properly accept. But the thing to be happy about is that Lord Nrsingadev, this is Krishna in the form of half a man, half a lion. He comes and he destroys Hiranyakashipu. So we can actually identify this and we can understand these mindsets and we can pray to Krishna and he can help us become free from these problems. But Hiranyakashipu, he's demonstrating how potent material nature is, how strongly it can cause you to be an illusion, because he understands all about the process of yagya, the whole Vedic system. But he's so fixated upon Hiranyakashipu means gold and soft bed. That's the etymology of the name, because that's what he's fixated upon. This is a symptomology of material life. How can I enjoy more? And although he has so much knowledge, still he cannot get beyond the fact that he thinks Lord Vishnu is getting in the way of my enjoyment, therefore we'll get rid of Lord Vishnu. And he cannot see that Lord Vishnu is actually the source of everything. Prabhupada here is talking in the purport. There's many people, they think that they are the doer. For instance, you create some skyscraper, or maybe you're a scientist and you have some new theory of how you can create a smartphone or something. Maybe someone invented a smartphone. And they feel very proud of that. I've done this. But if you actually analyze it constitutionally, then all the materials that they have used, they have no ability to actually create these materials. They can manipulate them, but they cannot create them. They've simply extracted them usually from the earth. But then more than that, the intelligence they have. People, they become proud of their intelligence, I've got such nice brain, etc. But we're also not in control of that. It's also been given to us. You see some people, they don't have so much intelligence. You look at an animal, a living entity in an animal species of life, has got practically very little intelligence. She's very much instinctual. Whereas some people who are very much, they've got high IQs, etc. But this is still, it's been given by Krishna. Their vision is very limited and very narrow, so they cannot see this bigger picture. They cannot see that all is actually coming from Krishna. Therefore, they say gratitude is the attitude. If you actually develop this feeling of gratitude, then from there everything comes. From there you start to appreciate, okay, I'm not the one who's doing all this. Somewhere or other I've been given this mercy, then that's the starting point to get deeper. So that's what's recommended in culture, This verse here, it really emphasizes the importance of having a good culture in society. Because Hiranyakashipu is he's intelligent, so he knows that the Vedic culture, which includes austerity, sacrifice, Vedic study, regulative vows, and charity, this is very, very potent, because what it does is it brings everybody in society, gradually elevates them. Because oftentimes, say for instance, sometimes we go in the street and we give out some books, and so you have a lot of time to sort of look at people and reflect on what people are doing, and what I would be doing if I hadn't got the mercy of the devotees enjoying Krishna consciousness. People, they're just going around just buying things, they work for some time, because people tell them, you get your education, you go to school without having any choice in the matter. You go to school, you get your education, someone says, oh, you're good at this, or you like doing this subject, so you do further education in that, and then you try and find some job, and then you just start going around buying things. And ultimately, it's like, you sometimes see a child who's got a toy and doesn't know how to work the toy. And it's just pressing buttons randomly, and occasionally it makes a funny noise. They go, oh, that's good, but they're actually missing out on what the purpose of it is. When Kripa Prabhu was here, he kept telling this one story, which you probably heard, so I don't want to repeat it too much, but it's very, very potent. There's a very poor man. He was a charcoal seller. Charcoal is very cheap fuel. You just half burn the wood and then you can sell it. That's what he's doing. I'll just give a shortened version of the story, but one day a man comes to his little forest and his little hut in the woods, and is all distressed. His horse is left and he's been ambushed, etc. And so this charcoal seller very nicely serves the man, gives him everything he needs. And the man is so pleased by his service, he says, I want to give you something, because actually I'm the king. I'm the king of this whole land, and you've treated me so nicely, even if you don't know I was a king. So he takes him a walk and shows him this beautiful forest of sandalwood trees. And the man says, oh, that's very nice. I'll take these. And as the king comes back a year later and he sees that a whole forest of sandalwood trees has been just chopped down. And he's like, what have you done? Do you not know that, what have you done to all these sandalwood trees? And I said, well, I chopped them down, I turned them to charcoal. I burn them and I sell them in the market. And the king says, you don't know that if you take one twig of the sandalwood tree and you get the oil from it, it's worth more than a whole bag of charcoal. I says, what? I didn't know. I'm just a simple charcoal seller. No one told me these things. And the king's just pulling out his hair. And it's like that. People, they're in this world right now. And yeah, you ask them, sometimes you ask people, like, what's your purpose? And they say, well, I'm here for a good time, not a long time. This is some of the mentality, just doesn't matter what you do. We're simply here to enjoy. And the irony is that if that's your mentality, not only do you not enjoy it, but you just miss out on the most valuable thing. That this human form of life is incredibly, incredibly rare. And that's what culture is there for. Culture is should be the backdrop of a life, so that everybody just gradually gets elevated. Because most people, we do have material desires and things, and people just follow along what everybody does before. Like people, they feel so strongly. Sometimes you see in Glasgow, some people they support this football team, other people they support this other football team, and they really hate each other. But it's simply, you get born into a family, and your father likes that football team or something, then you just take it on like that. Or people get born into a certain country, and with this country, then for instance, you see people in Scotland, they always feel a little bit hard done by. That's the mentality, and they don't like it so much, the fact that they're part of a bigger country. Sometimes there's these mentalities, but people, they just, it's like a Dokshapa was speaking, I think, was it, or maybe Prabhupada Prana, you were speaking about the puppet show. It's like we're doing a little puppet show, and then we become so engrossed in thinking that we're that character. But the character is arbitrary, But this is why culture is there, because despite this, culture is what elevates us. And you have a class of people, the Brahmins, who actually understand reality. They've studied the Vedic scriptures. They understand, that we are not these bodies, we're eternal spirit souls, and they engage everybody else in process of yagya, of sacrifice. When it says in the purport here, ultimately all yagyas are meant for the gradual promotion to the transcendental position. Yes. So yagyas take different forms. Is referred to in the Bhagavad Gita how from yagya we get food grains. And so this is it's like a material thing in one sense. We do some yagya, and the result of that is that we have nice food grains so that we can eat nicely. Everything can be peaceful. So it's material. Because the analogy is given, like if you want a child to take some medicine, then you can say to the child, take the medicine, this will make you well, you are sick, take this medicine. The child's not going to go very nice with that, because children have this inbuilt nature just to reject any sort of I remember myself, anything medicinal, just nowhere near. But then an intelligent doctor or intelligent mother, etc., they will sort of bribe the child. Either they put the medicine inside like some sugar candy. You take, like, for instance, there's actually an epidemic right now of young children are addicted to Calpol. Calpol, it's like a liquid sort of painkiller thing that recommended for children, but it's very, very tasty. So children, they fake being sick simply to get Calpol. It's actually quite a serious issue. There was one psychologist referring to it as the heroin of children, but this is a side point. This idea that if you want a child to take some medicine, then you have to offer some very, very tangible reward. You just take this; it tastes nice, because you say you take this, and then your chicken pox will go away. That is too, the cause and effect is not so clear, because a child perhaps doesn't have the developed intelligence to see this long-term cause and effect. Vegetables may be good for you, but I don't want to eat vegetables. And so it's like this with this is what culture is. Ultimately, everyone is eternal servant of Krishna. Krishna is Yagyeshwara, the controller of all yagyas, and we exist to serve him, and having this loving relationship with him is the essence of our lives. This is what we're actually hankering for. This is what we want. But if you just tell that to people, when it's described, the Brahmins, those who are actually deep in spiritual knowledge, and they will accept, and some other people, but it's actually described for every one Brahmin, there's 10 Kshatriyas, and for every 10 Kshatriyas, there's 100 Vaishyas, and then there's 1,000 Shudras. So there's a hierarchy. So those who are actually spiritually enlightened, they're quite rare, within society. But they engage everybody else in this process of sacrifice by saying, for instance, okay, we need rains. Everybody needs to eat, And even now, we maybe cannot see this cause and effect in modern society. We've become so much based on passion. But if we don't look after the environment, then we cannot get sufficient food grains. We cannot eat. Society cannot function. The very basic necessities are food, shelter, etc. Therefore, it said, well, you do these sacrifices, and then you'll get nice rains. That's what people do the sacrifice. But little do they know that by doing sacrifice, then they're reawakening their spiritual consciousness. And over time, that will emerge until they're just really devoted to Krishna. But these sacrifices in previous times were quite complex, involved lots of paraphernalia, very complex mantras had to be chanted very, very precisely, etc. But the process is still the same. So in Kali Yuga, Krishna comes in the form of Lord Chaitanya. It's said in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna Varnam Tusa Krishnam Sangopangastafarjanam Yagyai Sankirtana Mida Vyajanti Sumerisha. In the age of Kali, those who have some intelligence, they worship the incarnation of the Godhead by congregational chanting, by Sankirtan. This is the yagya for this age. And so the external aspect of the yagya, whether it's that we're offering oblations into a fire, etc., or we're chanting the Lord's holy name, this is the different methods. Ultimately, what Krishna wants is he wants the entirety of our consciousness. He wants that loving relationship. And therefore, in Kali Yuga, he's given us the easiest process of yagya that anybody can perform, regardless of where you are, how many riches you have, how much intelligence. You simply have to chant the Lord's holy names. But it's recommended is Sankirtan, that it's congregational chanting that happens together. And this is the easiest way to please Krishna. And the only way to actually properly please Krishna in this age. And so I was hearing in Treta Yuga, the Yuga Dharma was offering fire sacrifices, offering oblations to the fire, chanting all these mantras, etc. And it said that these very precise mantras that the Brahmins had to chant in Treta Yuga, then in Kali Yuga, then we engage other people in chanting the Lord's holy names. And this is of equal value. And therefore, when perhaps we're on the street and we tell people we're using some words to get people to stop and to take some books, and the books are telling people to chant Hare Krishna, then the words that we use to get people to stop and what we say to convince people to take the books, these are non-different from the mantras that are chanted by the Brahmins in Treta Yuga. The same potency, because it's how we're offering sacrifice. Yeah, so Prabhupada's writing in the purport here that if we forget the purpose of human life and simply take supplies from the agents of the Lord for sense gratification and become more and more entangled in material existence, which is not the purpose of creation, certainly we become thieves, and therefore we are punished by the laws of nature. A society of thieves can never be happy, for they have no aim in life. So this is the irony that everybody wants to be happy. You look at any activity somebody does, it is based on this principle of how can we increase the happiness, either of myself or extended, wider society, look after my family or my country, etc. But it still is happiness of the senses. But the irony is that whilst we're just trying to make everything happy, then we're making things less happy. Because we don't fundamentally have this attitude of gratitude. A society of thieves can never be happy, for they have no aim in life. There's no actual purpose. I've seen this again. I reflect on this protest I was witnessing in Glasgow just in the weekend there, and the people they're very angry. There's so much anger, and the anger gets vented at just random things, like the fact that people say you have to wear a mask, and then they're just people that even now, it's not even enforced that you have to wear a mask. Some people just do it. You see occasionally some old ladies in the shop will wear a mask, and they're up on this stage just yelling their heads off about how people are being forced to wear masks, and they're there's some low emission thing, and they're so angry, because ultimately they're seeking after their own sense gratification. Everybody's seeking after this, but they've got no aim in life, and therefore they're feeling very dissatisfied, and this gets vented in different ways. But this is why society is needed. Prabhupada talks about 4% of the world need to become Krishna conscious. He gives different numbers at different times. Sometimes he says 50%, sometimes he says 1%. But to Tamal Krishna Goswami, he says 4% of the world, or 4% of America, as he's talking about America at this time, needs to become Krishna conscious. And this is enough to rectify society, because what it will do is most people, they simply follow what everyone else is doing, simply follow. And so if you have a class of people who are actually God conscious, who actually understand the purpose of life, then they will engage everybody else in this process. And therefore, the Krishna conscious movement is never stationary. Constantly we have to be. Prabhupada said there's very big ideals. Even 4% is quite a big number. Scotland, the population of Scotland is what, 5 million? The population of Scotland, 5 million, 6 million, something like this. Okay, so 4%. So 4%. What's that? Um, 1% with 500,000. So then 20,000. No, 200,000. 200,000 people need to be Krishna conscious in Scotland alone, and that will rectify the situation, according to Prabhupada. So we've got a big task, but the Buddhists take a little from a lot. So I'll kindly stop here and ask for any reflections or comments or questions if there's. Pip.
Is it not enough to just want to serve humanity?
This is nice, but ultimately we don't know how to serve humanity. You can try and meet humanity's material needs, and people have dedicated so much time to that. But look what we've done. World hunger is not being alleviated. Simply they have these targets, the UN, to reduce world poverty by a certain date, and all they really do is they change the goalpost by which they measure world poverty. That it's like a certain amount of people are, below 30% of the GDP. There's some arbitrary figure to determine what poverty is. And ultimately, as people, they feel they're trying to serve humanity more and more. Humanity is becoming more and more, they're suffering. And it's even described that we're due a certain amount, due to our karma, there's a certain amount of suffering is there. And you try and alleviate material suffering, then you look in the West, we try to alleviate all the material suffering, We've got drugs for this, and we've got special gadgets for this, and we've got, nice heating in our homes and everything. We're trying to alleviate the problems. But then these problems, they emerge in terms of mental health, because the same suffering is there. So if you're just trying to serve people materially, then in one sense, it's a waste of time if that's it. Now you need to look after people's material needs because people need to eat, people need shelter, people need relationships, people need all these things. But ultimately, the real thing that they're hankering for at the very center is a relationship with Krishna, which is lost. Right now, they're like this child inside a car or inside, just pressing buttons. It doesn't actually understand what's happening. So we have to be factually convinced that what people are ultimately hankering for is a reawakening of their true identity as God consciousness. And you see, when that's there, then all the other problems they get solved naturally. We can just try to solve the symptoms, but for so long we can try to solve different symptoms and different problems emerge. But if we solve the root source, then you see people, you engage them in Krishna consciousness, you get them to chant Hare Krishna, then people, they become satisfied with what they have. No longer are they having this intense greed for obtaining material things. Therefore, people are happy to live off the land, to live simply, follow the script, the way of life that Krishna himself practiced in Vrindavan, village life. And in this way, environmental problems are solved. In this way, for family and societal problems are solved. Otherwise, you're simply, you can feed people, but there's, Jesus said, man does not live on bread alone. Would you agree? It's true. Krishna conscious man lives on butter alone. And so the duty of the Brahmins is to cultivate peacefulness, self-control, tolerance, truthfulness, cleanliness, and simplicity. It's interesting, this word cultivate. These things don't just emerge. Material nature is going in one direction, and to actually develop these qualities of, peacefulness. If in our lives, who do we actually know who's properly peaceful, completely self-controlled, completely truthful, completely tolerant, completely clean, and completely simple? These things are very, very rare, and they have to be cultivated. Have to put in the effort. You want to grow some very nice flowers or vegetables, there has to be a lot of tilling of the land, etc. But yeah, when the Brahmins are a class of people who are completely above any sort of, they cannot be bought. You see in our society now, so many people they're within the hands of money. People, they get into politics, etc., and they've got a lot of nice ideals. They want to make the place better, but simply then some power, some money comes there, and then slowly the corruption sinks in, because these people, they might have so much material education, many facilities, very intelligent, but they've not actually developed their heart. They've not developed these qualities. And real education means development of qualities, peacefulness, self-control, truthfulness, cleanliness. And therefore, we refer to Brahmins or sannyasis as Maharaj. Maharaj, please give your blessings. Raj is king. Also, the king, the one in the mode of passion. There's such Rajas means the mode of passion. It seems a strange name to call a sannyasi. Maha means great, and Raj means passionate king. So it seems a strange name to call them, but it's this idea that the kings themselves are very powerful. They're in this position of power. They they appreciate that their authority is the Brahmanas, those who are completely renounced, those who actually have this knowledge. Because when you're engaged as a king in military affairs and everything, naturally you get bogged down, you get a little bit entangled, and therefore you need that guiding voice. Someone who's going to give you that bird's eye view. So that's what Prabhupada said. He came to the West, and he said, first you make a society of Brahmins, and then when you have Brahmins, then everything else follows. And towards the end, you see towards the later part of Prabhupada's life, he was very much emphasizing varnashram, the whole system having Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, and living off the land. But the Brahma is described as the head of society. And without a head, then everything is just a little bit clueless. So it's important you have the head and then everything else. So any more questions?
Can there never be an equal society then, or how can there be equality in the society?
Material nature is not equal. We can artificially try and but we were hearing yesterday, that you have an elephant and you have an ant, okay, and they've got different sizes of stomachs, the elephant and the ant, and if you give the ant the food of an elephant, then it might get indigestion, Yeah, so really equality is to engage people according to their actual nature. If someone naturally is a leader and you give them simply the job of just simply following very basic instructions, they're not going to be happy. They're going to be very anxious, because they can think their mind is working in such a way as they want to lead. Whereas some people, they're much, much happier just being given basic instructions, and you put them in a position of a leader, then they become very stressed, etc. So real equality is to actually understand people's nature. And this is what the system of varnashram does, is that it teaches you truly what your nature is, and you're situated in that, it makes everything peaceful, so you can actually cultivate this, the really important thing, which is your Krishna consciousness. Because everybody has the equal opportunity to engage in Krishna consciousness. It's said in the Bhagavad Gita, it doesn't matter what varna you're from, what gender you have, etc. If you take shelter of Krishna, then you have the opportunity. So equality exists in that way, but materially, everybody should have the same amount of money. It's like, well, some people, you give them lots of money, it makes them very, very stressed. Everybody should have the opportunity to live peacefully. This is one thing, and that comes from varnashram. Therefore,
Equality is like something like artificial compromise. The story in this regard. The mother comes in the kitchen and finds the daughter and son fighting over the last orange. And so she was told she could just cut it in half, and give them half each. And then there's no more arms, like half of each. But the leaves are different. One wants the orange for juice, and one wants it for food. So she understands what each need is. She satisfies both of them. So the varnashram system, the different orders, they have different needs, and even a Brahmin will be satisfied with doing having dinner and just getting a full stomach. Brahmin is satisfied with learning and teaching, whereas a Sudra will be satisfied with that. So people have different needs, and the equality is when everybody's needs is satisfied according to their nature. The society is not geared in such a way as to understand what our nature is.
You see now people, they're so much dissatisfied, they don't actually know the cause of the dissatisfaction, so they externalize it and see it as some form of, people often talk about some sort of oppression, some form of discrimination, etc. It's really that exists there to some extent, but because they have no internal satisfaction. And therefore they think that if we can somehow regulate this entire system whereby every single company has an equal amount of people from this ethnic background, people from this gender, people of this ethnicity, etc. How we externalize everything, then it'll be fine. It's like not so much. You're still going to have the same issues. People are still going to be dissatisfied. Therefore, yeah, self-realization is very important to actually know who you are, how to be situated in the world, and then.
It's interesting because if a Vaishya tries to become a Brahmin, for example, Vaishya, their nature is to do business, and that means to cheat. can buy it for this price and sell it for that price, so it's cheap and gets around.
Yeah.
But such a house that has been a brand, and then the central thing being a brand is to be truthful, people that good for them. So then they become unhappy because they try something like that. So it's important to understand what their own nature is, how their own nature keeps that. And then regardless of that, then one can become Krishna conscious in any of these social spiritual examples, isn't it? From the bar or steps in.
So we have a duty to spread this culture. This Vedic system of varnashram, which is meant for the upliftment of the entirety of society. We have a duty to imbibe it ourselves and spread it for the upliftment of society. So we're kindly seeking the help of everybody assembled here. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki, Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande.